Jaime.
Hello.
Hi. It's so good to see you. Oh, hi. You're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky few that got out and all of the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this as I used to work at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles. And at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat.
Like this, like a rose.
I'd like to welcome our guest, Jaime Moyer. Jaime Moyer is an alum of the Second City, Detroit, currently resides in Los Angeles, California, and is a member of unions SAG-AFTRA and AEA. She has voiced two characters on Bob's Burgers, recently appeared on the Netflix series The Big Show, and had a recurring role on Modern Family. Jaime has also had appearances on Parks and Rec, What Up?, Two Broke Girls, Jennifer Falls, Detroiters, Future Man, and played neighbor Mrs. Goldfelder on Disney's hit show Casey Undercover. Jaime was awarded the sole prize of Maestro at the Out of Bounds Comedy Festival in Austin, Texas in 2011. Holy shit. I better know Jaime from dying laughing watching her perform at the Second City Hollywood and then having the pleasure of having her coach me when I was briefly with an improv group a few years ago. I am still mad at myself for quitting that group and missing out on more time with her brilliance because she is insanely brilliant. Anyway, so Jaime, tell us, how much fun did you have being on Parks and Rec? What made you want to be an actor? How's being from Detroit? You take it away, girl.
Kate, I love you. Thank you for having me. Being on Parks and Rec was a dream. The episode I was on was directed by Amy Poehler.
Oh.
So she wasn't in the scene with me, but she directed the episode, and working with her was so fantastic. And I got to play Roz DeGrandis, and I am her mail lady. And so that was like a dream come true. And one of my favorite guest stars I've ever done. Just felt so exciting to be on that show. And growing up in Detroit was also a dream. Detroit gets a bad rap,
It does.
dear listeners.
It does.
A fabulous city. And it has an underground of culture and art, music, poetry, theater. There's so much going on in Detroit that people don't think about or understand. And it's not your typical city. You have to kind of look for the things, but they are there and they're wonderful. And wait, what was the last one?
The last one was what made you want to be an actor? That's a bit deeper.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so it kind of was written in the stars a little bit in that my mom and dad are both actors.
What?
They met in college getting their degrees in theater. And so, in fact, they kind of encouraged me not to be an actor or want to be an actor.
Which proves they were.
Dad, I had to go for it. So I think that there has never been a time when I didn't want to be.
Oh, I love that. So I want to rewind for just a second. So Detroit having this sort of underground art culture that you were raised in, because your parents were actors, did you get more access to that world, or was that something you discovered as an adult?
I think that's a great question. I think I had way more access because of their involvement. They exposed me to it because my mom had a theater when I was growing up. And my mom and my dad and even my stepmom worked at the theater for a time. And so my mom was the artistic director. And I had seen hundreds of plays before I even turned 18. I saw all kinds of shows. I saw dramas, comedies, musicals. And I knew all the actors. And I was so lucky because I got to kind of meet every kind of person. And so I really had a diverse upbringing that I think has helped me so much in my life and in my career. And I'm so thankful that all four of my beautiful parents, my mom, my dad, my stepmom, my stepdad, all have brought so much unique knowledge and culture to me that they really helped me as I grew and now as an adult to be exposed to so much.
Do you model any of your characters after a collection of people that you got to meet in that world?
Oh, I'm sure I do. Be it consciously or subconsciously, right? So if I saw a show that, there's a show that I maybe loved when I was growing up, you could be sure you might see some homage to it in a character. And then maybe I'm not even sure I'll be driving home going, where the hell did that come from? And then my brain will go, Oh yes, that show by Sam Shepard years ago. So it's like, it's kind of funny. I think a lot of it is subconscious.
Sure. Now, were there, because you were sort of raised in that environment and you had the unique experience of having both parents be actors, were there other kids around in the theater scene, or were you kind of like the little kid that everybody loved to have around because there was mostly adults?
There were a few around, but I was the only one around consistently. And I thought that all the adults were my friends. And so I kind of met them on a peer level. So my mom will tell like a story where a show on opening night, she's like, "Where's Jamie?" And she looks over and I'm sitting in the chairs talking to the reviewer. And I'm going like, "Well, here's what I think." And, but I'm like 6 years old. I'm like, "Here's the thing, Larry." And I'm just giving him my thoughts and everything. And she's like, "Let me go ahead and get her out of there."
Oh, no, they knew you were doomed in that moment. They're like, there goes our actor. Or like, that's it.
100%.
She's doing it.
They were begging me when I went to college, please have a double major. Please get a degree in something else. But of course, I didn't listen. Well, I kind of listened. I double majored communications and theater.
Which serve one another. Where did you go to undergrad?
I went to undergrad at U of D Mercy in Detroit, University of Detroit Mercy. Also notable alum, Keegan-Michael Key.
I wanted you to mention that, but I didn't want to bring it up. Okay, yeah.
Yes, he graduated a little bit before I got there, but we knew each other through theater in Detroit. And I'm telling you, a lot of my friends, Kate, out here in LA that you are familiar with are people that I met in Detroit, be it through Second City or through the traditional theater scene. So Mary Beth Monroe is one of my besties, but I knew Mary Beth Monroe as one of the actresses my mom was constantly casting in shows she was directing.
Oh,
so I first saw Mary Beth Monroe in a production of Anne Frank, Diary of Anne Frank. My mom had cast her as Margot, the sister. So I'm like, oh, that's Mary Beth Monroe. So I didn't even know her through Second City at first.
Okay, because see, when I met you, I had just been at Second City for a second, and you got there and started teaching and like really changed the game and the stage, and like everyone was talking about you and your performances and stuff, and how much fun you were, and all this character work you were doing, which was sort of a departure from what we were used to seeing. And I remember being so envious of the fact that you were just plugged in. Like you landed at Second City Hollywood, and it was just like I just kept thinking, I'm like, well, she must have lived here before because she literally knows everyone, and she's just like getting up and performing all the time. Like there has to be some way she's been to LA before, and it was just like, no, just moved here. Just this is how it works.
Yeah, I got very, very lucky because I'm an alum of the stage. I was able to kind of happen into classes teaching because I had taught for Second City in Detroit, and they love to have, or in the past they would want to have alum be your instructors, just as my instructors were also alum, because we have a unique insight into how to do everything from the first minute we walked in till we put a show up on stage. So we lived it. I think they wanted their teachers to also be alum so that we could give that perspective to the students. But I feel really lucky that when I got to LA, so many people, I think what happened was people would see me do shows and then they'd ask me if I wanted to sit in with them. So it was kind of like a snowball that rolled really fast. And suddenly I was doing a lot of shows with Chicago alum that I did not know.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, and that was right when Second City at the time, they had structured that sort of video stuff that was happening, and we had all these grandiose plans, and we were like, we're going to do all these shorts, and it's going to be, the new thing, and unfortunately that had a pause put on it, but that was a really, really fun time to be there. I had Dwayne Colbert on a different episode, and we talked about just that magical time. I do too.
Yeah, that was such a beautiful time. That was the heyday that we didn't know we were in. And I've had that heyday in my life many times when you're having the best time of your life, but you don't know it until later. And when they started the Second City Network, Andy Cobb and Josh Funk, Mike Demanskas, Kyle McGrath, Dwayne, people were just making videos and constantly in the building editing, and they'd call and say, can you be down here at 1:00 and do a quick bit? And it makes, for any of your listeners who are in the business or want to do stuff, you have to just gather with your friends and do it, because it makes every day feel worthwhile if you do one little thing.
Yes.
For your career. And that's what those days felt like. And I had just arrived in town and I wanted desperately to make things happen for myself, and I didn't know how. So those were really magical moments.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And everybody that I've heard, that I've listened to or watched their careers blossom, all of them. I mean, Keegan was doing videos with us for a while.
Yeah.
Not like,
sure.
wasn't years, but he was definitely, he was sort of in the same boat that we were all in of like, I don't know, do we just create content? I guess that's what we do. And so now, are you still coaching? Do you still teach improv?
I don't teach, but I do coach.
You coach.
So I don't have any regular classes. I'm kind of a free agent now, and I'll do workshops, and then I coach on Zoom. And before the pandemic, I had stopped teaching because I got a writing job, which was really exciting.
Oh, I didn't know that.
kind of have retired from regular classes, but I still coach online, and I was coaching in person before the nightmare.
Oh, boy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. And you got a writing job. Are you able to talk about that?
I can tell you that I was writing on the first 3 seasons of Lego City Adventures on Nickelodeon.
Oh my gosh, how fun. I think Brian does a voice on that show, doesn't he?
Brian and I actually wrote together.
Get out of here.
Brian and I, we became writing partners towards the end, and we don't know yet if we'll be picked up again or be back, but we sure did have a lot of fun while we were together.
I love that so much. It's all these Second City, just weird connections that are, to go back to your previous point, that it was the heyday and we didn't know it. And just all the people that found success after that.
Well, and I want everyone to know, and you too, LA is the biggest small town you'll ever have.
Hello.
It's smaller than you think, and also it's ridiculously huge and vast and confusing.
There's never been a more apt description of the city than that right there. Do you ever want to go back to Detroit?
I love going back, and I spent a lot of time there over the years of me living here. I would try to go back once every 3 or 4 months and do shows or teach or visit. And I adore Detroit, but I don't think I would ever live there again. If I was to leave Los Angeles, I think I would try someplace new and different from LA. But I love Detroit. It's always in my heart. And you're just very close with the people there, and it doesn't really go away. People are like, you moved, you've changed. I have not felt that, and I feel really lucky that I'm still tight with the people that I was tight with when I lived around the block.
Do you want to rep a particular zip code, or is that not a thing y'all do? You don't have to. Skip it.
48224.
I wondered.
No, but we do rep our area code 313.
Yeah, well, interesting. Is there an improv group that maybe got built around that?
The 313. And I still have my 313 phone number. Although when I first moved here and no one was calling, I kept thinking, I wonder if they think this is a mistake and it should be 323 because that's an LA code. But then I started realizing half the people I met in LA had different area codes from where they were from. So I don't think it was a thing where someone tried to call me to give me the best job on television and they couldn't get through because it was the wrong area code.
Jamie, you'll never know. And that's for the universe, I guess. Okay, so bring us up to today, because we're going to eventually, folks, we're going to get into her customer service. She's not just a successful TV personality. She also had jobs that we've all had. But get us up to today.
Oh, my. Blank slate.
Okay.
I have no idea what's going to happen.
That's right. And you're currently in Los Angeles right now, right?
Yes, I am. I'm hunkered down.
Okay.
And there was some great momentum coming into 2020. And now I think everything's kind of at a standstill. So I'm just hustling here and there and trying to hiccup back into it, but the entire industry pretty much shut down.
Yeah, which is a real pain in the ass.
Sure is, baby.
For the listeners, programming note that I should always do up top and never do. I always think of it halfway through. I am still in Ohio, and obviously Jamie just said she's in Los Angeles, so this interview is over Zoom. So the hiccups and the pops and all the things that you listeners are already used to and have been so graciously accepting are going to continue through this episode. Who knows? It's a weird time in history. Okay, anything else we need to know about you, Jamie, before we get into the questions? Well, these are questions.
I think we have covered the bases. Let's get to the nitty gritty.
Here we go. All right, folks, we hope you enjoyed your apps. We're going to go on to the entrees after a quick break. We are back, and now it is time for the entrees. Okay, Jamie, this is the speed round of questions. This is where we get into customer service. Feel free to tell stories. You don't have to just rapid fire answer. I just ask a bunch of questions in succession, but if you think of a story, feel free to go off on a tangent. What was your first job ever?
First would probably be working concessions or answering the phone at the theater.
Okay. How old were you? How old were there child labor laws involved? Do you want to not?
It probably was not allowed, but I was there, so what the hey.
Okay.
And then when I was 16, I got a special work permit to work at a movie theater.
Ooh, now that's the best job ever for a teenager. Free popcorn, lots of movies.
That was the best.
Yeah. I mean, did you get to watch all the movies you wanted?
Yes.
Oh, best.
And you had to take mandatory breaks, and you could only work a certain amount of hours a week. And I loved it. I worked in the concession stand. It was probably one of my favorite jobs to date. And fun fact, Second City alum Megan Grano worked in the box office at the same movie theater.
Get out of here.
And we went to Concession Olympics together, which is a thing.
What?
And yes, it is. And then Megan and I, years later, were at a party in Chicago, and we were like, I feel like I know you. She's like, I feel like I know you. And we started the whole thing. And she's like, I grew up in Grosse Pointe. And I'm like, I grew up in Detroit. And we started naming high schools, college. We couldn't figure it out. And then all of a sudden, she was like, Woods Movie Theater. And my jaw dropped. Like, I used to love working with her. She was so sarcastic and funny, but we were just work friends. We never spent a moment outside of work, but when we were on the schedule at the same time, we were like, yay.
Wait,
is that not so funny?
It's the best ever. And that just speaks to to your earlier point, you're just going to keep coming back to this thesis that LA is so small. It's the smallest town in this large fishbowl. Okay, so I'm going to need you to get real specific about Concession Olympics because I have to know what that means.
Okay. So Concession Olympics is where people who work for the blanket company of the movie theater company, all gather at one of the movie theaters. So basically all the branches of AMC showed up at the Bel Air movie theater on Van Dyke, and we had a tournament for did you upsell, counting the change back, no butter on the bag, did you open the bag with your hands?
Oh my gosh.
Concession Olympics. And Megan has actually written something about this. So I don't know where she is with their stages of that, but like it's an actual thing that we did.
Now when I
had pins, I was like really good. And so we went to like semifinals and I had my pins. And so I had to wear this heinous polyester suit, but I would pin my winning pins to my like polyester vest lapel.
Wait, I'm dying. Wait, I have to understand. Okay, so when you say like no butter on the bag, don't touch it, are you performing for like a group of judges? You're actually doing, or were they taking like it was based off your history of?
Oh no, you're doing it
real time. Oh,
real relay race style.
Oh my god!
Count back the change. Did you upsell? Butter on the bag, hand in the bag, or deductions? I mean, it was a thing. It was a real thing, and it was hilarious.
Wait, God bless corporate though for keeping people engaged in a relatively mundane job.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then so I worked for them, and that was awesome. And go sit and watch the movies. You could have popcorn, you could have pop, but you couldn't use the inventory. So we would make bags out of foil. We would take a big piece of industrial foil, fold it over, fold the sides, fill it with popcorn, and then take 4 courtesy cups of pop and go sit and watch a movie.
That's the best.
And then I think when I was 17, I got another part-time job working at Point Video, it was called. It was like a family-owned video store. And so I worked at a movie theater and a video store and still had my mom's theater where sometimes I would answer phones.
Okay.
So I was immersed in entertainment.
I mean, it's really their fault that they allowed you to work all these jobs. Of course you were going to be an actor. There was no, what else? What the hell else were you going to do? No doctors coming out of that environment. Okay, so we're up to 3. So that was it. When you were 17, it was Point Video. We still had the theater concession stand. Where are we going after 17?
Okay. Now, keep in mind, I'm at Woods Theater for years as my part-time job.
Okay.
At 19, I'm still working at Woods Movie Theater. I'm going to community college. This is before I go to U of D.
What up,
I'm at
JUCO?
community college. I'm at the Woods. This woman comes in every Monday with her boyfriend. She's gorgeous. She's blonde. She's kind of like a little bit of a bigger gal, which I'm like, yeah, girl. She has her cute boyfriend. She comes in every Monday and just like big, beautiful hair, jewelry, nails. She just was like a cool looking lady. I was like, that lady is awesome. So I started noticing her on Mondays. And so she'd go like, how you doing? And I'd go, good, nice to see you again. You know, it was a small movie theater. It was not busy. So you kind of, if you had regulars, you'd recognize them. So she comes in one Monday. Everyone's on break. So I'm basically running the show. Monday is the most dead night. So you might have 30 people total in any of the total amount of people watching movies. I sell her the ticket. I run out of the booth. I tear the ticket. Then I run behind the concession stand and I make her popcorn. When she leaves, I'm putting up the marquee with the big arm. And she goes, honey, you work too hard. I'm going to give you a job. She goes, have you ever heard of City Club? I said, no. And this is like, not to date my age, but I don't have a cell phone or Google at my, disposal. She goes, listen, come down to First and Bagley on Friday night. I'm going to give you a job in my club. And I go, okay, great. So
And you're 17 at this time, correct?
No, I'm 19.
You're 19 now. Okay, now we're 19.
I'm 19.
Okay.
So I'm like, this is crazy, but let's try it. So all week long, I'm asking people, have you ever heard of City Club? Have you ever heard of City Club? And none of my friends know anything about it. So I show up at the hotel. It's in the Leland Hotel, which also has 100 rooms at a Ramada, downtown Detroit. I go to the front desk. I'm wearing like a beautiful black cat suit with like a gray blazer. And I've got like stockings on and black flats. And I because she says coat check. I'm like, I don't know, So I go to the front desk. I'm like, hi, I'm here for Sybil, and he's like, go right into her office. So he points me into her office. I go in. There she is. Gorgeous hair, nails, everything. She's wearing like a black blazer. But sitting across from her is this like woman that's like larger than life, covered in tattoos, big Doc Marten boots, fishnet stockings, bra, no shirt, shorts. I'm like, what is this outfit? And so she's like, she's going to take you in, hon, set you up in the coat check. So we go through the hotel and like, it's a, hotel, whatever. They open this side door and it's like walking into hell. There's like all these weird paintings on the wall and like anorexic elephant, skeleton, baby arms coming out of the wall, mannequin heads. Everything looks so scary. It's really smoky. And she's like, okay, you're going to be over here. I get in the coat check. It's terrifying. Kate, I think I'm going to be murdered. I have no cell phone. Cell phones don't exist. I'm like, who knows I'm here?
Ooh.
What's going to happen to me? Am I going to get shot up with heroin? I mean, I was like afraid because everyone came in. It's a gothic industrial nightclub with people who have like spikes embedded in their head and a mohawk and wearing rubber suits. And like, there's like 10 security guards, which I think is good. And I'm like, this is the scariest place I've ever been. It was like, I can't really describe it. It's like the club in, Pretty in Pink that Ducky goes to, but then like 100 times scarier. Like it's nuts, it's punks and it's wild. So I'm sitting there in the coat check and I'm like, just going to have to tell her, thank you. This is not my cup of tea. I'm not really into this. And so and the club closes at 4:30 in the morning.
Girl, no.
The bar stops at 2 a.m., but the club itself closes at 4:30.
No.
So at 4:40, she comes walking up to the coat check and she says, what do you think? And I'm counting out a stack of money. I go, see you tomorrow. And I worked there for 5 years.
Holy shit.
I worked there for 5 years, Kate.
Oh, my God.
Only open on Friday and Saturday nights. They didn't advertise. You couldn't even see what door to come in. If you didn't know what it was, you didn't know what it was. But when you came in, it's huge. And the dance floor This was an old hotel. So the dance floor was this huge ballroom that used to be where they had auto shows. The DJ booth was an elevator lift that used to bring cars in. But the entire place was painted with crazy themes. Over the years, the themes would change. I saw so much lunacy at that job. I saw things you would not believe.
I'm going to need an example. You don't have to tell on yourself.
I saw people having sex. I saw fights. I had a girl steal my tips out of my tip jar and then fall down the stairs, and they had to call an ambulance.
Did you get your tips back from her?
I did get my money back. I feel pretty confident. I definitely was at the top of the stairs, and I yelled down at her, "Karma's a bitch." And she had like broken her arm. One night a guy like tried to walk across the ceiling. I mean, it was just like got in between some drywall and tried to walk.
Girl.
Like, it was nuts. It was the crazy. I'm telling you, this is one of the wildest jobs a person ever could have. And I had it for so long because it was really good money. And then all the staff, you become like friends. But the dance floor was all way in the back, and it was all gothic industrial headbanging music. But in the front, there was a jukebox. So I got him to put No Doubt and Tupac in there.
Because you're like, I'm going to entertain myself, goddammit.
That's right. I mean, nobody liked when I played it, but sometimes I would play it. And there was like a boop boop machine at my bar, which, we call it boop boop, but it was like, you play the video game. So I put a lot of quarters in there. But coat check was hopping because they wouldn't let people bring in cameras. So you had to check your cameras, and you had to check your spikes. No spikes were allowed. And so people, and then you had to check, you didn't have to check your coats, but it would get super hot in there. So between the coats, the spikes, the cameras, or any other contraband, if someone came in with like a knife, they'd be like, "You have to check that, man." And so the security guards would pat everyone down, and the coat check was right behind security. So sometimes people would come up to me and be like, "This spike collar is very important to me." And I would go, "Well, you can give me some extra money and I'll take extra good care of it." And then I also had a little racket where if they didn't have their ticket, they would have to wait till 4:30 to get their coat. So if they came up to me and they're like, "I can't wait till 4:30, I have to get out of here," then I'd go like, "All right, listen, I'll go look for your coat. You have to tell me something that's in your pocket, or I'll let you back here and you can look with me for your coat, but you have got to pay me extra."
Nice,
to do you that favor. So that was a very wild job. So
what was your average like take home from that job, money wise? Like what was an average night?
I mean, I never left with less than 150. And sometimes it would be way more than that. I mean, especially if you got one person who really had me watching an item, and as cell phones, as some people did have them, they weren't allowed in. So if I was watching someone's cell phone, they might say like, "Give me $10 and be like, "Please be careful with this." And I'd be like, "Good." And everyone knew me. This place was filled with regulars, and sometimes it was, 600 people in there.
Get the fuck out of here.
Club. It was huge. I'm not kidding you. It was big.
So literally, if everybody wore a coat that night and only tipped you $1, you're still...
That's what I'm saying.
You're making rent.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it was really good money. Although some people were so cheap, they would come in freezing in the Michigan cold with no coat on.
Okay. Although I can't shame that because I've done that more than once.
Or you could go back out to your car if you didn't want to, once you got frisked or whatever. If you didn't want to come in, you didn't have to come in. So I'm still friends to this day with Sybil, who was the lady who hired me. We just exchanged Christmas cards.
Oh, of course she celebrates Christmas. Of course, Sybil at the goth club.
She was not a goth person either. I mean, it was a job, and she just ran it. She was the manager. She ran the hell out of that place. It was great. I had a lot of fun there. Towards the end, I stopped working coat check because the hours were really long, but Sybil didn't want me to leave. So I think my last year there, I was pretty much exclusively the Jaeger girl. So I would come in and just sell Jaeger shots for 2 hours on Friday and 2 hours on Saturday.
And probably make a grip of money doing that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a Jaeger machine behind the coat check was another thing that we did to make money because everyone had to be marked 21. So if there was a huge line at the bar and someone wanted a chilled Jaeger shot, I ran the Jaeger machine.
That is brilliant. You're a hustler. You got it in you. I'm really impressed.
Girl, I am a hustler to the nth degree. I have always been able to, I mean, there have been times in my life where I've had so many jobs. In Detroit, I was a bar manager. I used to clean my friend's theater once a week for $40 for like 2.5 hours, scrubbing the toilets so that I could make $160 a month. I was a box office manager. I worked under the Ticketmaster system. I was a bartender. I mean, I was artistic director of a theater, and I also answered the phones and made the deposits, and I cleaned that theater. And you know, I will do anything work-wise to make money. I don't have any airs about me of like, I don't clean. Oh, I will clean. And I will babysit. I mean, whatever it takes.
You're doing it.
To make it. And honestly, out here, it's a little harder to hustle those jobs.
Yeah.
Because out here, jobs are hard to come by. And when you get agents and managers, they don't want you having a day job. They don't want to ever hear, I'm not available.
That's right.
And in fact, they ask you when you go on those meetings, do you have a day job? And your answer is, no, I do not, because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear you have conflicts.
And if you do have conflicts, the answer is no to them, and then you figure it the fuck out.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah. So through the list you just listed, I got 13 jobs, 13 customer service jobs. Did you, now I would count coaching as customer service, although it's slightly different, but I'm still going to put it under the same thing. So I'm going to give you that's 14.
And interestingly enough, I've never had a restaurant job. I've never worked as a server. I've only worked as a bartender. And you know, if you count concession stand, that's food service.
Yeah, it is.
I've never worked in a restaurant ever, which is weird because most of my friends have.
Yeah, well, you've done the sort of, you did the outlying weird jobs, but then got to the peak of the mountain with the bartending, because bartending is where the money is. I mean, that's just...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Although, keep in mind, I bartended at a neighborhood hole in the wall that all of our friends would go to, and sometimes I would leave with like $30. But all of our friends would come in there, we'd play euchre, I'd put probably $5 at least into the jukebox. They also had a bomb-ass boot machine, so I would play some games. But yeah, I wasn't bartending at, like, some of my friends who were bartenders would clear $600 a night. At my bartending job, I probably never made anywhere near that much.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a local hole in the wall. You're there for the company.
It was the best.
Yeah,
it was the best.
That's a fun experience. Okay.
Oh, yeah. The bar is called Seven Brothers Bar.
Aww.
Owned by a very moody Macedonian. And it was the bar that it was like, people call it the Sardi's of Detroit. George is the name of the proprietor. He's one of seven brothers. He's the eldest of seven brothers.
Ah, the name makes sense.
And he would put all of our headshots up.
Oh.
And he put reviews all over the wall.
What?
And yeah. And so I lived at this time in a town called Hamtramck, Michigan, which is a mile by a mile and a half city smack dab in the middle of Detroit. It's its own little city smack dab in the middle, surrounded on every side by Detroit. And Hamtramck is where tons of actors lived. And in fact, it was Keegan who lived one block over from me. Keegan and Eric Black, who was a brilliant comedian and Second City Detroit alum, they would have afternoon tea because Eric was British. And they were walking once and they happened into Seven Brothers Bar. And they struck up a friendship with George. Now, at that time, the bar was just like any other bar in Hamtramck, which, by the way, had something like 25 bars in it. And it's a mile and a half long city. It had
it's out of work actors. Yeah.
It had bars and there was a great bar called Whiskey in a Jar, which was basically in someone's house that was converted into a bar. Seven Brothers has 3 bars around it. There's just tons of bars in Hamtramck. I think it actually had a world record of like the most bars
per capita or something.
Yeah, exactly. So Larry came later, but Eric and Keegan forged a friendship with George. The story is that George went to Second City Detroit show, saw them, came back, and taped his ticket stub to the wall, and that was the first ticket stub.
Oh, I will die. That's so sweet.
That's the lore. And George is wonderful. I love and adore him. He just had his birthday last month. He's still our friend. We still talk on the phone.
Oh.
He's in his 80s.
Bless him.
Yes, the bar is closed, but Planet Ant Theater, which is the theater I was working at as artistic director, they bought the Seven Brothers and the liquor license, and they use that bar as a rehearsal space and a podcast studio now.
Brilliant. That's really, really smart.
That's Detroit. You see, that's Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know how I said you still keep up with those people? He's on all of our minds. We love the man. He's just a great man.
I miss that piece of, you can carve that out in LA kind of, but I really do love that tiny artistic community where you're just a bunch of weirdos hanging out together. And like you forge a bond that you can't really articulate to anyone else unless they've walked it. Like you just,
That's it, girl. That's it. 100%. It's hard to describe. It's part of what I said to you earlier, where it's like, you don't know you're in the best times of your life.
Yeah.
Those Seven Brothers days, my college friends all went there because we were all theater majors. So again, before I even went to Second City, I was in the bar with the Second City people, but I was there because of the college people. It's like we didn't know, and now there's so many of us out here who had every birthday party in that bar that live in LA now. And it's no wonder we're all still friends. We're just very bonded. But the difference is when you get to LA, you just don't see each other as much as you did then.
Well, and you can see kind of, not to just keep talking about Keegan, this show's about you, but I will say that when his show took off, or their show took off, he was casting, Naima was in the show, Josh was the musical director.
He put a lot of frequency in there.
Yeah.
For sure. And were you around when him and Jordan
I ran the lights for their show when they were pitching it. Yeah.
I was at both of those. I think they did 2, maybe 3, where they were like, we're trying some things out. Come for a free show.
Yeah. Bless them.
And Sam and Tim from Detroiters, and Sam Richardson, Tim Robinson. Tim and I were on Main Stage together. Sam was my former student.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, he's my former student. And we're all still so close out here. It's really remarkable.
Well, because you all were in the trenches together, and I think that forms this not weird, but this like sort of unshakable bond that, especially when you, anyway, LA is its own beast. Okay, so we've got you up to about 14 jobs. Can you did you have to, so you didn't do any customer service jobs by the time you got to LA? Because sort of what got you to quit the Seven Brothers job and come out to LA?
When I left Detroit, I had 4 work-related going away parties. I had 4 cakes.
Oh my God.
And when I came out here, luckily for me, I was able to go right into teaching at Second City. And I had a good little nest egg of savings, which I recommend to anybody moving out here.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky to get my SAG card in Michigan.
Oh.
So that was very helpful to move and already be in the union. And I was in Actors Equity because of Second City. And when I got out here, I just started hustling.
Immediately.
So it's kind of interesting, Kate, that I have not had a job in LA that wasn't industry related. I have not worked a day in a place, and I have had some very lean times, let me tell you.
Sure.
But the truth is, and also I'm very lucky because my dad and my stepmom were out here, and that was very helpful.
Yeah.
But I was able to live up. I also came out with no credit cards. I paid off all my credit cards, so my overhead was very low. That's amazing. And then when you start booking certain things, like basically my guest star on Two Broke Girls, one guest star. Now it was a pretty meaty one, so I think that could have popped me up a little bit. But the residuals from that saved my ass so many times. I would be like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I have nothing. And I would go to my mailbox and there'd be a $600 check from that Two Broke Girls. And it saved my
damn.
So many times because they syndicated Two Broke Girls
at
80 episodes. And I was in the 80th episode.
Okay, so for people not in the industry, what essentially syndication usually happens between 90 and 120 episodes. 80 is basically unheard of. And so for them to have made that choice meant they believed enough in the show, but they felt like it had a life that could live beyond, kind of like Friends or The Office. Like those have lives.
We're talking reruns, baby.
And so as an actor, for non-industry folks, if you have a speaking part and you have good agents and they negotiate something, also SAG does that negotiation for us too, you get paid as it airs. So what Jamie's talking about is you don't know when those residual checks are coming, and when you do, it feels like you just won the lottery. And sometimes I have gotten a residual check for 1 cent.
And I have as well.
You better believe it.
It's a rite of passage. You see it all the time on Instagram or Facebook, where someone takes a picture of their 0.01 cent residual. Well, and there is a way to track them, but I never do, because I'm also super disorganized, but it's kind of fun to just go to the mailbox and get it.
Yeah.
But so residuals, teaching, coaching were my bread and butter since I got out here, and especially going to festivals and doing workshops going out of town.
Sure.
So if I could do 4 or 5 festivals a year, that could help float the boat for the leaner months.
And that was you teaching, or you were performing in those festivals?
Teaching and performing.
Amazing. Okay.
All over the country. Is that good English?
Yeah, that's English. You're crushing it.
I'm speaking the words.
Yeah.
I've gotten. Why does it sound weird? I've been to Europe teaching.
Amazing. Okay, so
and I did a cruise ship, and I was able to save a bunch of money when I did that. I did a contract on the cruise ship. So little things here and there have helped immensely in the lean times.
Yeah.
Because, and dear listeners, please, yes, I've done well. I also drive a 2004 Dodge Neon. So it's not like, I'm rolling Lexus out here and going like, oh,
not yet
on TV.
Not yet.
I think a lot of my friends in the Midwest think that,
Yep. I said this on a previous episode that like the options for your friends in the Midwest are like, why haven't you moved home? Or they think you're a millionaire. There is no in between. Yeah. Like there isn't. Like,
that's right. And then meanwhile, I'm like watching them buy houses. And I'm like, wow.
I know.
I will, I'd like to buy a house. I should never say I'm trying to work on my intentions.
Yeah, you will buy a house eventually.
I want a house, but to buy a house out here, you have to really be
shit and gold.
Very successful. Very expensive.
It sure is. Okay, so of those, so I'm rounding you out at 16. That's where we're going to land. And
I like that.
So what was your favorite of all of the customer service jobs? So we know acting and performing, those are obviously your favorite things, but of the myriad of customer service jobs that you've had, which has been your favorite?
It's got to be bartending at Seven Brothers.
I thought that's what you're going to say. Okay.
Yeah, it's got to be. I did love working the coat check. Like I said, it was fascinating. I was so young, and I was so naive to so many things that I learned in that club. And I also loved the movie theater, and I loved the video store. I haven't even said at the video store, I worked 2.5 movies is how I thought of my shift, because I basically worked 5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And like we could put movies on, and it was a very ill-attended. So I worked at an ill-attended video store, now since closed, and an ill-attended movie theater, now since closed. So it was like, I could put in any movie, watch it. I had so many previously viewed. So like all of them were good, but Seven Brothers, I think, has got to be the number one.
Now, why did you quit the coat check job? I don't think we talked about why you left.
After a while, it was very long hours of 9:30 to 4:30. It was like
your whole next day is shot.
4:30 in the morning on your weekends. It was long. Oh, I forgot another job.
What?
I worked part-time midnight shift at Perry Drug, which then became writing.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, that was a little job I had in the middle. But then again, I couldn't work midnights. So City Club, it just got to be so long in the tooth. And I was working at City Club when I went to college. And when I went to college, that was a whole new life. And it was kind of hard to step away and go do that job.
Yeah, because you're removing yourself from that life. Okay.
4:30 in the morning, what I mean? But I still worked there through college. I'm pretty sure. It might have actually even been Second City. I got hired first to Second City Tour Co. So I wasn't doing main stage when I worked at City Club, but I think maybe that was another thing too, where it was just like I kind of ran the clock out there.
Yeah, I get that. And then what was your least favorite of all of those jobs, if you're willing to say?
Oh, for sure was cleaning the Matrix Theater, scrubbing toilets and cleaning the kitchen there.
And that was for $40, right?
$40 every Wednesday. That was very humbling.
I bet.
That was a humbling job. Yeah. I was thankful to have that. I was thankful for that $160 a month. It was,
the detail for people who have never been part of the theater community as apart from, being in the seats. If you've never actually been in a production or done that as an adult, actors can be disgusting, and the toilets are usually disgusting, and
the customers too. It's just too much.
Yeah, it's a lot. What's the weirdest thing you've been asked to do whilst on the clock?
Got to be City Club related.
I was thinking that too. I'm like, something with the Jaeger shots or the watch my pet ferret or whatever the hell.
Yeah, that's good. Dang, girl. I know I've got a good answer for this. I mean, it has to be check someone's whips.
It's pretty, like BDSM whips? Is that when you say whips?
BDSM whips.
So with
I have to put a tag. I had a roll of tape. I have to give them a ticket and tape a ticket to a freaking whip.
Yeah,
and
that's a lot.
Probably coat checking a person in a full pleather suit where you can't even see their eyes is another thing that was pretty unique.
I mean, Jamie, you just won the podcast Olympics with no one will ever say the sentence you just said again. So you just made history. That's pretty weird. Was there ever an incident at any of these jobs where they asked to speak to your manager as a result of something you did or said?
I don't think so. I was a pretty good girl. I was a pretty good girl. I was very well liked, and I'm kind of glassing over when I was a box office manager at a theater. That was like my wonderful job. That might be the job I had the longest because I worked there forever in the box office. And we worked the show Menopause the Musical. So maybe there were some complaints about our tickets weren't where we wanted them for Menopause the Musical. But no, I can't really think of a time I ever got in trouble. The most trouble I ever got into at my job was me trying to, especially when I worked at that theater, I had the schedule making ability, but they took it away from me because if I got something or needed to do something, I'd put myself on the schedule from like 9 to 1 and then come back from 5 to 8. And finally my boss, Lori, was like, Jamie, you can't make the schedule around your schedule. So that might be the most trouble I ever got into, was trying to make the schedule around my schedule.
Okay. Was there ever a last straw that got you out of any of the customer service jobs where you were like, not necessarily lit the building on fire, but you were like, I've had it. I'm leaving. Not going to do this anymore. Like not a transition of I'm moving. It's time to move on, but more of those like, fuck this job. I'm out.
Kate, the big problem with me is I hate change. So I stayed at every one of those 13 jobs longer than I should have. Every single one of them. The City Club, I tried to quit. I was really mamby-pamby about it. I was back and forth, and that's how Sybil hooked me in to just come in and sell Jaeger shots for 2 hours. Like, I have a hard time leaving jobs. Definitely the cleaning of the theater was probably the one that I as soon as I was able to have some extra money,
that was it.
I quit that job. And I thank them for that job. But again, you're trying to make it as an actress in a town, and then you're going and cleaning the toilets, and it was hard. It was a humbling for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great. Have you ever told a customer to go to hell?
Oh, yeah. I got into a fight with someone in the coat check. And so the girl said that she was super drunk and that her and the boyfriend were trying to leave and she didn't have her ticket. She's like, shit, give me a ticket. And I'm like, I did give you a ticket. I'm like, I know what I'm doing here. I give everyone a ticket. You lost your ticket so you can get your coat at 4:30. That bitch didn't give me a ticket. Fat bitch, that bitch. She was calling me a fat bitch and that bitch. And so the head of security was Ron. He's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, just get her the hell out of here. I'm like, tell the boyfriend to come and, identify her keys or whatever from her pocket. So I let him back there. He's going, I'm sorry. And so we go and he's like, that's her coat. And I take the hanger off, and what's hanging there but only one ticket, meaning I did
Gave
give
her the ticket.
because there's like, it's like a paper thing with a hole in it, and there's 2 tickets attached. So if her ticket isn't, if there aren't 2 tickets hanging there, then I gave it
one.
to her.
Yeah.
So I was incensed at this point. And so I ripped the coat off. I handed the boyfriend. Then I rush out from the other side of the coat check. And I do not have a bad temper, but when it shows itself, it is terrifying. And I was seeing red. And so I took that hanger and I go right into her face. I got the hanger right in front of her face. And I go, you see that fucking ticket on this thing? You see a ticket? And then I reach my hand back like I'm about to give her a hanger beat down. And Ron grabs my hand. He goes, no, Jamie, don't do it. And I'm like, he's like, don't do it. So everyone laughs about that because like everyone knew me as being so fun and chill and laid back and like I said, I'm right by security. So everyone was just watching with buck eyes because everyone thought I was about to beat a girl up with a hanger. But he grabbed my arm like this. But I had reeled it back. And I had the hanger. It was like one of those kind of cheapy wire hangers.
Sure.
And I had it like bent in my hand. Oh, I was about to go to town. And of course, the girl who stole my tips. But we already know what happened to her. That was instant karma.
Karma, bitch. Getting whipped by a hanger doesn't feel good. You were ready to let him know.
I knew that from watching movies or something.
Okay. How many bodily fluids have been on your person whilst you were on the clock?
Well, tons of spit in my face.
Oof. Like a like spitting on you?
Not that bad, but like close talkers.
Ugh.
I certainly saw, as we mentioned, some fluids around the club. Some from fighting. There used to be wild fights there. The fights were insane.
I bet.
So there was often fluids around like that.
You got too many people in ball gags out being told that they have to surrender their ball gags. A lot of
nastiness. You got home from that job. It was a full shower, and your clothes could not be smokier.
I don't miss
your
the days.
Your clothes could not be smokier. But no, nothing grosser than probably people yelling in my face.
Okay, all right, that's good.
Just the fluids I saw around were plenty quite an eyeful for a young 19 and 20-year-old girl.
Did you ever get barfed on in the coat check room? Did anybody ever barf out there?
Never got barfed on.
Wow.
Thank you, Jesus.
You're very lucky. Okay.
Saw a lot of puke.
I bet.
Saw a lot of puke around.
Oh, that smell is so specific. All right. Do you
specific.
Oof. Do you tip?
I tip my butt off. I tip everybody.
Okay.
I am a generous tipper. And I like to tip people. And I sometimes go a little bit too far with it. Okay. Especially when, as you know, probably every person who's been on your podcast, when you have been in an industry where you get tips, you can't even ask for a glass of water without leaving $1. That's just the rules.
Yes.
That's the etiquette. And it's burned in you. And also, if I get randy with someone over the phone, I harken back to those box office days. It's like, I will often say, like, listen, I know this isn't you, but this is what the fuck happened. Like, if I'm talking to AT&T or something, I'm like, listen, I'm sorry. I don't want to.
I'm not coming for you.
I'm not coming for you. Yeah. But you have to understand I'm upset.
Yes.
I say that anytime I'm upset because I understand.
Yeah.
I really understand.
Yeah. And do you, what's your average, like, percentage of tip?
Always 20 at the restaurant.
That's
if
good.
Not a little more. And my personal philosophy is $1 per drink. If I'm buying 5 drinks, I will leave $5. That's what I used to like when I was a bartender. And I also tip, even when I pick up carryout, I like to tip. And I also like to tip cash because I think that that's better all the way around for all parties involved. If you leave, so sometimes I'll even pay for something on credit card
and cash
and
tip.
leave cash. I do not obviously tip retail. That's weird. And, I think that would be strange if I was like, thanks for this beautiful blouse. Here's $5. They'd be like, this lady is insane.
They'd be like, we'll still be nice to you. You don't have to give us this extra money. But people in other countries don't understand our tipping system. I've had a listener.
They don't?
No.
Oh my God. They almost bears upon insulted.
Yeah.
I've been twice to teach and perform in Denmark, and their prices of their food and stuff is pretty high. But I've been met with some very odd looks when I tip, and one of the guys who brought me out to do those 2 weeks, it's like 2 weeks, and he said, they're paid very well. He's like, they make a really good living wage. So, it's kind of funny. I don't know that anyone has ever turned it away, but sometimes it's met with an interesting look.
Yeah.
Where's a great place to tip that a lot of people don't tip is Starbucks. And I had a good friend who worked at Starbucks out here, and she's like, we depend on those tips.
Yeah. And I didn't, prior to working as a barista, I didn't tip baristas because it was like I didn't think about it. And it's more labor intensive than bartending, in my opinion, unless you're doing like craft drinks with a sprig of holly or whatever the fuck. Yeah, being a barista is tough. Will you ever not tip?
No, I still tip.
So even if the service is bad?
I do it begrudgingly. If I get bad service, I still leave a decent tip.
Okay.
But I try to say to myself, this bitch must be having a very
really bad day. Yep. That's right.
I hate when I don't like when I can't get my water or whatever, little things. But again, I'm very passive aggressive that way. I usually still go for it. I just do. Before pandemic, I was at a bar and the bartender was being a jerk. And I was trying to get his attention because I was sitting up front and there was a show had just gotten out and there was a ton of people. And I was like, and the girl goes, can I can get you what you want, whatever. However, I said to her, she's like, can you give me a glass of thing? And I was like, can I get a red wine? He's like, you've already been served.
Ooh.
And so I finished my drink and I cashed out and left. And that was his mistake.
Yeah, you would have stayed there.
He also ruined my night, to be honest with you. He pissed me off. I already was irritated. And then he did that. And I was trying to help that girl and he gave me a sass and I just left. So, but I still tipped him.
Yeah.
I really did. I swear to God. But he ruined my night. And I don't like to be out here. You can't really, it's very different out here because you can't really have more than one or two drinks anyway.
Yeah.
But I probably would have still stayed and hung out and had a second drink and probably stayed there for like another hour and hung out with everybody. But he irritated me, so I had to bounce.
I get it. I totally get it. Do you ever remember if you ever got stiffed when you were working as a bartender?
Oh, like on a tab or something?
No, I think I have to change the way I ask this question because everyone thinks it's that. I mean, just not given a tip. So like they paid the tab, but they did. Or have you ever had anyone walk out on a bill?
I am sure that has happened to me, but no story that ever jumps out.
Got it.
Just again, the girl who stole my tips out of my tip jar, that was a big.
She's a real bitch. She's getting a lot of airtime for being such a bitch.
Yes,
I'm gonna have to.
But,
yeah.
That was really it. I don't think that I've had anyone, and I have been robbed, but
Ooh.
never at my job, so that's good.
Was that in Detroit?
Yes.
Bless that city. I'm not coming for your city. Jamie. I just wanted to get clear.
It was.
Okay, that's okay. We'll move on.
It was, but what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Have you ever been fired from a customer service job?
No, I've never been fired.
In your whole life? Full stop. Wow. That doesn't surprise me at all, really. Who's the worst customer you can think of? And you can't mention Karma bitch. No, God damn it. She's getting too much airtime.
The worst customer.
Or like a quintessential, if you can't think of one specific example, just a quintessential worst customer that you can just, that would do something like similar to how that bartender ruined your night, a customer that has the potential to ruin your night as a bartender. Is it a particular attitude? Is it a way they speak to you?
Yeah, I would say that anyone who is dismissive to me, I do not like that because I try to treat everybody nicely. And when I worked in the box office, if someone was dismissive or demanding about wanting certain tickets or certain seats, they might not get the best seats. If they were rude on the phone, they might get a few rows behind. I'll be honest about that. Like, I don't like that kind of talk. At the bar, if there was someone who was giving me attitude, I don't like that. But again, at Seven Brothers or at City Club, if I had a problem,
you're at security.
It was martial law. I could do whatever I wanted. Yeah. I have cut people off before. I've told them to get the fuck out. And I can be very intimidating if necessary.
Sure.
So I don't really think anyone wants to tussle with me if it comes down to that. But I would say people that are dismissive are the ones that are the worst to me.
Yeah, that's a special kind of disrespect that it's like
they
you haven't
talk to you like
you're a bother.
I'll have, or like I would take umbrage if they even didn't like what we served at Seven Brothers. Like we were mostly beer and liquor. If they're like, I'll have a dirty martini up with a twist. I'm like, we don't got no olives. Like I was just like very like, this ain't the bar. This ain't the bar you think it is. If you want that, I would highly suggest you try one of the other 25 bars in Hamtramck because we don't got what you're looking for.
You have so many other options within a mile radius of your.
Oh, absolutely. And there was a regular at Seven Brothers, a guy who was really sexist.
Oh,
and he would say sexist things to all the bartenders, and he was a jerk. But I'll never forget one of the other bartenders. So when I wasn't working, we would all still be at Seven Brothers, and that's where we go when shows were over, and we would spend a lot of time there. You could also just go up there, play a game of euchre, and be the only 4 people in the bar. So it had that vibe. But this guy was really sexist, and he would get to talking with anybody who'd listen, and he was the worst. And so another bartender, Nova, who was such a cool girl, I'll never forget, she threw a drink in his face.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Like, I don't think I could have ever done that. I pretty much ignored him. I think he always wanted to push buttons, but he would literally say things like, women are not as smart as men. They're just not. Like, that's the kind of conversation he'd have with people.
Just so tired.
But I pretty much was able to ignore him for the most part. But Nova threw a drink in his face, and that was when she kind of hit hero status for me.
Yeah, you're like, Nova, we're best friends right now.
Yeah, I lived vicariously through that moment.
I would have as well. Okay. Well, now, folks, we're going to move on to the good stuff. We hope you saved room for dessert. What was the nicest thing a customer has done for you whilst you were working that you can think of, or an example of something nice that a customer did?
The nicest thing. I had a customer at the box office job. I was able to move her tickets for her, and she brought me chocolates.
Aww.
That was really nice. We were under Ticketmaster, so you were supposed to be no refunds or exchanges. That's said to every customer on the phone. But we would be able to kind of move their tickets, especially if the show wasn't sold out, or we could resell their tickets. And I'll never forget that lady sent me chocolates. That was pretty cool. The night that the gal took my tips, people gave me extra money in my tip jar.
Oh, because they saw it happen, or you?
Everyone knew what happened because it was a big thing, and the entrance was blocked by her until the ambulance came.
Holy shit.
It was the craziest thing. So that was like a big one. I remember people gave me extra money that night.
Was she like, so she was on the way out and she just happened as she was getting her coat, she just fully grabbed the money that was in there?
I turned away and she reached into my tip jar and she took like a huge handful of my tips. And then she kind of hustled out the door and I turned around and I'm like, that thing took my tips, she took my tips. And security started after her and she fell.
That's why.
Down an entire flight of concrete steps.
Ooh. Okay. Well, karma's real.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of nice customers. Oh, I have one. 2 customers at Seven Brothers on my going away party gave me this.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that before.
Yes,
okay.
They made me a puppet.
Is that?
They made me a puppet in my likeness, and this used to have a cigarette hanging out of its mouth. And it is one of the sweetest gifts I've ever been given. And I didn't even know they made puppets. Or if I did, I never made the correlation. That was a beautiful present.
For the listeners, Jaime just held up the puppet. And that's so lovely. That's really sweet.
I love them for that. And that was so sweet. So, I mean, again, Midwest people, Midwest sensibilities, and then out here in LA, I've gotten some pretty nice presents from shows when they've wrapped.
Aww.
And, little things like that. And I just have had a charmed life in many ways when it comes to my jobs, Kate. I like working, though. And in fact, I kind of miss having those hustle jobs, especially in pandemic, where I'm like living off of savings.
Sure.
I have been trying to get as much coaching as I can do, little things like that. But for the election, I was sending out texts through Resistance Labs. And so it was really cool. And I sent over 70,000 text messages. They sent me like a badge email and they were like, you are a texter of honor. But they were really cool. I texted for several different organizations through the blanket organization of Resistance Labs. And a lot of my texts were to people in Georgia. So you send the text and a lot of things, and this might be, good for your listeners.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get those texts, we think they're a robot. No, it's someone on the other end of there. That someone is a volunteer usually. And so you could send 200 texts and you'll get 2 responses back. One response is, fuck you. And the other response is Trump 2020. You know, like it can get frustrating. But then every once in a while, someone write back and go, do you know where I can vote early? And they have it set up so you can find the perfect answer to that question. And you can also personalize it.
Oh.
And I swear to God, every person I helped had me in there for 1,000 more.
Oh,
like every
wow.
time someone actually
Responded.
needed help.
Yeah.
And also there were a lot of funny ones. There were some really awful ones too that I'll never quote what they said. But there were some funny ones. Like one time someone wrote back Adele lyric. They said, so I said like, be sure to vote early. Here's a link to your locations. And they wrote back, sometimes it lasts in love and sometimes it hurts instead. And I wrote back, yes, it does. I said, fun fact, Adele is a British citizen and she can't vote in this election, but you can. And then they wrote back, LOL, you just made my day.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, but most of the responses are like, stop, remove me from the list. But every once in a while, it was helpful. And then we don't even know who we helped that maybe had forgotten that they needed to vote. They had one more day, whatever. So what I learned, and the reason I bring that story up is not to say, oh, I'm so perfect, but to say that I like just sitting here clicking my computer. I think I could do some busy work like that if I could find something like a little side hustle, because you just sit there clicking all day long.
Yeah, well, listeners, to anyone that knows of any, side hustle jobs that Jaime could do, she's a great employee. She stays a long time. She's told us how loyal she is, and she's clearly very smart. So y'all can give her some busy work because she'll crush it.
I liked it. I'm telling you, it was kind of cool. It's like there were a couple rough days. We would all get on a Zoom on Sundays and all of us would send messages, and that was really cool because if we got a really mean or like awful response, it's somehow better when you can like laugh about it.
No question.
Like, oh, murder you, and you're like, uh-oh, this guy says he's gonna murder me. Whereas if you're by yourself and you see that, you're like, Jesus Christ.
You're like, is he gonna murder me? I don't know.
Yeah.
And what's the best tip you've ever gotten? Can you think of like maybe it wasn't even monetary?
I do have a story of a best tip. I was working at Seven Brothers.
What?
And I was at a really broke time in my life. And he doesn't know I'm going to say this, but I am going to tell you. Larry Joe Campbell came to town, and he has a very special relationship with George as well. And he had some of his brothers there, and they came to the Seven Brothers. And George said, whatever Larry wants, no charge. It's on me, nothing, whatever he wants, no charge, Jaime. And so I didn't charge him anything. And when he left, he gave me $100 bill for me. And then he gave me $100 bill to put into the till. He goes, slide this under the, you lift it up. And
Yeah.
He goes, slide this in the register. And I just thought that was so cool. And like, he didn't know, but I really needed it. Like I really needed it. So that time sticks out to me for sure. And I've never told him that. I've never discussed it with him, but I'll never forget that. I really, really was in a bad way. And that was just a fun thing. And that's again, that's Detroit, baby.
That's lovely. And I've heard, my interactions with him have been very, very limited, but have always been positive. And he's very humble and,
he's
kind of
the nicest.
Yeah.
He's such a sweet, sweet person. Yeah. A lot of the successful people that you may have come in contact with at Second City are from the Detroit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, over and over and over and over and over again. Like Naima's from Detroit, and she was one of my favorite coaches there. Like, Matt Craig is not from Detroit, right? But he's from Michigan.
Does act like it.
Yeah, he does. He fits in with that crew. What up, Matt?
He sure does.
Yeah, love him too.
Matt worked with me on that Lego City show. We were in the writers' room.
That doesn't surprise me at all. He deserves all of the success. So do you. What is the best lesson that you have learned from working in customer service?
Try to treat the customer, especially when I'm thinking about when I was in the box office more than anything else, try to treat them like their order is important. It's not just another order for you. That you can take some interest in, for them, they're calling. They've never ordered tickets over the phone. They don't know what the seats look like. Don't dismiss them and ramble through it like there's a script. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't like that when I see it through other people, and I really don't like it when I go to the doctor too. Sometimes I feel like they're rushing me, and I'm like, listen, you may have a lot of experience with this, doctor.
I don't.
Guess what? I don't like going to the doctor, and I barely go to the doctor, and I want to talk to you about a problem. Let's fucking act like this is the first time you've heard the story. You know what I mean?
Turn your listening ears on. Like, yeah, this is brand new information, doc.
It's brand, yeah. It's like, it doesn't take that much to make eye contact. It's basically a lot of the rules of improvisation. Make eye contact. Listen. Don't just listen to talk. Listen to what I'm saying. Maybe you can say something I've said back to me to really show that you've heard and understood. If you're looking down, if the first thing out of your mouth is no, it's like with the box office, it's like, are there refunds? No. Well, I can't make it to the show. My son is sick. All right, let's see what we can do about exchanging your tickets. Try to yes and somebody. And if you are... The only other advice I can give is if you have someone who's mean to you, try to imagine they're having a bad day instead of blowing them up to the manager or whatever. Like, I rarely will complain. I just assume everyone is fighting a very different fight. I assume it, and I really try to be that way, Kate. I really do, because I don't like to complain on people. What if that person had a car broke down on the way to work or something like this?
Has a sick kid, or that's a really good reminder.
Their dad just died, something like that, and
sure.
I'm, they're not in the freaking mood, and so maybe give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, to piggyback on that, I got a text to confirm some appointment that I was making for a family member, and I thought it was this dental appointment I had canceled, so I had a whole bunch of attitude, and I was texting back. I'm like, I canceled this weeks ago, and they were like, okay, just give us a call. So I called, and it was an appointment I needed to keep scheduled, but I got all confused. So I called, and I was filled with attitude, and I said the address really quickly, and I was like, blah, 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 and the woman could not have been nicer to me, and she's like, well, you said that a little quickly, but that's okay. I'm going to see what I can find, and I was just not being kind. And then, because karma is immediate, I hang up the phone and I was like, oh my God, that was the appointment I needed. And I now have to eat shit and say, I'm so sorry. And so then I just did the apology tour of like, hey, I was a real big bitch to whoever I just talked to, and I'm real sorry. But she was absolutely lovely. So to piggyback on yours is, if you are kind to the person that is being unkind to you, they will have guilt for the rest of their lives if they're a good person. So like, I will forever feel like a pile of shit for the bitch I was.
You're here right now talking about
yes, and it was months ago. so yeah, you're gonna get your long-term revenge by just being nicer. I flipped that and made it negative. Okay, last question. What is one piece of advice you would give to customers who interact with customer service workers?
Treat them like they're a member of your family that you like.
Not just a random uncle that nobody likes.
Yes, not your racist uncle, your nice uncle.
The uncle you enjoy.
No, I think that's probably too hard, but I would just say try to approach people with kindness. Everyone is fighting their own battles every damn day. The world is a terrible place. I have often been accused, actually, by one of my friends specifically, of being nicer to strangers and customer service people than I am to her. Like,
God bless your friend.
I'll be snapping at her, and then the waitress walks up, and I'm like, how are you doing today?
Tell me the things.
I love that. I love to be able to be nice to someone. I also am so concerned that people have been mean to them. Like, even when I go now in the pandemic to CBS, seeing these videos or TikToks of people refusing to wear masks and stuff. So I overcompensate. I'm like, thank you for your work. Have a beautiful day. Be safe. Every time I walk out of a store, I'm saying those things just to let people know, like, I appreciate you. You're an essential worker. You are, I am friends with a girl on Facebook who works at a grocery store. And she's like, these customers have been so awful. She said they rip their gloves off, throw them in the parking lot. She works at a grocery store. I read that post, and it makes me go to the grocery store, and I'm like, good evening, kind sir. Bear thee and fare thee well to point me towards the Ritz crackers, for I must find a snack amongst this craziness, and you, sir, are my king. Like, I just try to be so nice to people.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so I'm going to ask you for all your socials and all of that, but for past episodes of things that you have been on that people want to see, is there a streaming app? Like, I'm sure Peacock probably has Parks and Rec, but is there, a way that to find you, to watch stuff you've been in, they can find you specifically? How do they do that?
There is. If you like the sound of my voice and you'd love to see more, visit my IMDb page where you will see listed the names of the episodes of the shows I've been on. If you wanted to support me, go watch AP Bio streaming on Peacock. I show up occasionally as Joyce, who works in the office. And I love that show. And I want you to see it. And check out my Bob's Burgers. You can see the names of the episode, the 2 episodes. One's called PTA, It Ain't So, based on a Weezer song that Say It Ain't So, reminding me that I also put Weezer in the jukebox at Seven Brothers at City Club against many people's wishes. And so PTA, It Ain't So, and 3 Girls and a Little Wharfie is my other Bob's Burgers episode. You can see me in a couple episodes on Future Man on Hulu. I've got a whole list of stuff on my IMDb, and apparently if you click on IMDb, that's good.
Yes, it is.
I could use the click. So just JAIMEMOYER on IMDb. And you can follow me on Twitter, Jaime_Moyer.
JAIME_MOYER. Well, yay. That's going to do it for us. Well, folks, we're going to drop your checks now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out at Service from Hell, we'd love to have you subscribe, rate, and or review the show wherever you listen. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled in the art of being kind and will be catharsis for those of us still working in the industry. If you want to get in touch with us here directly at Service from Hell, send us your receipts at servicefromhellpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thanks, Jaime. Really glad you were on.
I miss you. This was so fun.
I miss you. Thank you for doing this. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
I love it. Thank you. It's the best.
That was so fun.
Oh, thanks for doing this, Jaime. I really appreciate it. That was really, really fun. I cannot believe you worked at a goth club for 5 years.
Oh my God. That job was banooners. Banooners, girl.
I bet you saw more things in those 5 years than people go a lifetime at seeing.